It's only been a week since we went round garden and took an harvest of fresh, homegrown vegetables. But because this weather is consistently hot, sunny, things are ripening faster and faster. And we've already got some more things that we need to harvest because we don't want to leave them on the plants and let them spoil. So we'll have another little look round garden and see what we've got and take another little harvest this week. I've been waiting really patiently to harvest some of these peppers, but I just don't want to take them too soon. Bigger is better. Plus, if we leave them on plant, they'll change colour. They'll go from green to yellow, red, or even orange. And when they ripen, they're a lot sweeter as well. So as tempting as it is today to take a few peppers off these plants, once again, I'm going to leave them. They'll ripen soon enough in these temperatures. But we have got some more tomatoes ready. And if you remember last week, we went round every greenhouse and we took every single tomato that we could find that was ripe, because I was making sauces for freezing. And again, we have even more ready to harvest. And there's some little ones down here as well. We'll leave that one, it's still quite orange. But the ones above are a nice red, so they can come off. And there's a few more down here as well. It's amazing just how quick things ripen in just a few days once you get that consistent sun. And there's a few more on this plant. In fact, I'm going to leave these. They're still a little orange, so we can leave them for a little bit longer. This French bean plant, we're still getting a couple of beans off it, but it is now starting to slow down a little bit. But that don't matter because we've got some planted outside as well, ready for when these finish. So, although we've had bags and bags of French beans off these plants, it's still trying to produce flowers to grow more beans. It's just producing a little slower than it originally were. Loads more of these chili peppers have grown again. But if you look at the bottom of this plant, this one's starting to change colour. It's turning orange, which I can only assume that if it turns from bright yellow to orange, the chilies are going to be even hotter. And we've already harvested quite a few of these and made some chili sauces. So I think, once again, I'm going to leave these on there and then see what the difference is once they've turned that bright orange colour. We've got some really good sized beetroots as well now. Multi-sown ones, which is the way we always do beetroot. Quite happy to grow together. But right at the very back of this greenhouse, same soil, same greenhouse, but these are quite a bit smaller. But we could harvest those for baby beets if we wanted. But I'm going to leave those as well today. All those onions that we harvested and put outside have been out on this rack now for well over a week, and you can see they've really dried out a lot. So they're ready to be tied together now and hung up in the shed. And we also took some of these snowball onions as well. But that was only yesterday, so they've got a bit more drying out to do yet. Got a few more tomatoes in here. That one's perfectly ripe and a really good size as well. But again, these cucumbers, they just keep coming and coming. There's 1, 2 on there. 3. There's another one down at the bottom. So that's got 3 growing on it. This has got 1. It's also got quite a few flowers on it. And that's a good sized cucumber, so I'm taking that off. And I know I'm going to have more than 1 cucumber today, because I've already seen another one in another greenhouse. But when they reach that particular size, that's perfect for me. And on the plant next to it, there's another one. We've also got one at the bottom, which really we need to pin up somehow so it gets more light. So I'll just rest that on that shelf there, and it'll turn an even darker green then. It doesn't look like there's any more at the bottom. So we've still got 2 on that plant, 3 on that plant, and then one we've just harvested, that quite big one from. There's another baby one growing right there. And again, more tomatoes. Take some of these as well, especially that one, because that's completely ripe, that. So what it'll do now, if we don't harvest it, is it'll start to go a bit soft. So need to get these off straight away. And a couple on here. Again, they're still quite orange. We'll leave those. And I've just remembered that I need some spring onions. So we'll take a bunch from here. And I'm going to take most of these up, because I only grow these for those green tops. Once again, this outside French bean plant has got more beans on it for harvest. You've got to keep your eye on these, because they grow quite long, quite quickly. So you virtually have to check these plants daily. Couple more there. We've uncovered that kale as well now. It was pushing the net up anyway, so it was restricting its growth. But they're looking quite healthy. And we can start and harvest leaves from it now if we want. But always taking the bottom leaves, so this plant keeps growing taller. And we still have some potatoes in this raised bed as well, but I'm leaving those until they completely die off. Carrots and peppers doing alright. We did have snowball onions in here as well, but they're the ones that I've harvested earlier this week. And these cabbages are also doing really well. I don't think it's going to be long before we get to harvest one of these, because they're starting to art up really well now. And we can freeze cabbage as well. And we've got some Brussels plants. Just starting to get little tiny Brussels growing in between those branches. So hopefully that's going to be just in time for a Christmas harvest. And in this greenhouse, it's the one that we cleared all the branches away from the bottom quite recent to help ripen these tomatoes. And it's definitely done its job, as you can see. There's now quite a lot of tomatoes that need to come off. Especially these small ones, because they'll be really sweet. So I might as well take as many as I can. Especially these ones hiding at the back. Surprising how many you can actually miss. And in this greenhouse, again, a massive cucumber. Still a little light at the moment, but above it there's a smaller one. and that's a really nice green. So I'm going to take that one off and leave that bigger one to ripen a bit longer. And in this greenhouse, you get more cucumbers, and these are pretty much ready to go as well. But I don't need more than 2 cucumbers in a week. The plant next to it's got another one on, slightly smaller, but they're off the ground, so I'll just leave those to ripen a bit more. All the tomatoes in here pretty much still green, so nothing to be really taken from here today. So we're back in container garden area now, and that's that tomato plant that we put in a tub, and I've basically just let it run wild. It's got loads of tomatoes on it, but we didn't take any suckers off it or anything. We just left it to its own devices, and that's why it's become this huge bush rather than a tall plant. But there's still going to be a tomato harvest coming off that quite soon. Sweet corn's looking alright as well, and I've noticed that we've got these ears of corn that's growing now, and they've got these furry red tops, but I don't think there's anything there worth harvesting at the moment, but we'll be looking soon enough. Jack, my little pumpkin, is going from strength to strength every single week. And it's getting more and more baby pumpkins on it. There's 2 just in that area. And there's another 2 there. And basically what it's doing is putting out separate vines. There's 2 more there as well. There's 1 just down there. So far there's about 8 pumpkins growing on this one plant. So that's doing really well. And those container peppers are getting peppers on them as well now. Some quite tiny. There's a couple of medium sized ones, and then there's a few bigger ones. So considering they're just in this little wooden box hung on the wall, they're not doing too bad. So we'll just keep an eye on those. But we might have to take those as smaller peppers. But we'll see what happens. So when you consider that it's only been a few days since we already took an harvest of tomatoes, and if you remember on that video, as I said, we were making sauce, so we took every ripe tomato we could find. And a few days later, we've got all these lovely deep red ripe tomatoes. We've got a couple of really nice cucumbers as well, and we're going to have to do something with these because they ain't going to last forever. We got an handful of French beans, but we have been harvesting these over the last 4 days, so there's quite a lot already in fridge ready for blanching and freezing. Then we've got a nice big bunch of spring onions. And I've said this before, I mainly grow them for the green tops. And the reason for that is, in case you've never tried it, I make up a nice big bowl of mashed potato, and then I chop these green tops into small pieces and mix them in. And it tastes really nice. You've got those fluffy mashed potatoes and that hint of onion flavour at the same time. If you've never tried that, give it a try. I think you'll be surprised. So, only 1 week later, we've got another really good harvest of homegrown fruit and veg. And those cucumber plants are continuously putting on new fruits. The tomatoes are starting to get to big sizes and they're turning really nice and ripe. We just need to wait a little bit longer and resist the temptation before we harvest any of those bell peppers, because they're called California Wonder, So they could become one of 3 different colours. Every pepper starts off green, but if you leave it to ripen, you get yellow ones, red ones and orange ones. So I'm hanging in there, I'm resisting that temptation. I'm going to leave them until I see this colour start to appear. And we're going to do the same with those chili peppers. We've already made up that chili sauce from the hot lemon drops when they first got to about 3 inches. But now we can see that they're starting to turn an orange colour, which I think is going to mean a hotter pepper. So we'll make up a batch of hot sauce out of those once they've completely ripened. So I'm going to take today's harvest gratefully and pop it in the fridge, and then decide what we're going to be doing with it, whether it be freezing or pickling or just using as a little tasty mashed potato meal. And if you want to see what else we harvest over the next few weeks, then please just hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell, and we'll see you next time. You all take care. Thank you.